But we got Gelie in here now. Can I switch people around? Nope. Well, anyway, we're live. Funnels and follow-up. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome,
Catherine,
everyone.
Where you talk.
So we have Gelie this week on the show. And Gelie's the founder of a company called Networking Phoenix. Barry and I had the honor of being at the George and Dragon bar when Gelie burst in and said, "Oh my God, I have this amazing new idea." And that was many, many, many years ago. Gelie has not aged in all those years, although Barry and I have. And Networking Phoenix is this software-based platform that builds community. She co-designed and co-created it 12 years ago.
12.
And 12. And
I'm trying to get a word in, that's all.
Well, it's an event-centric community platform. You know what, Barry? You have a couple of events. Tell our listening audience how Networking Phoenix can help them with their funnel of getting the right people in, because you have a couple of events on there.
Let's talk specifically about I do once a month a boys only night networking. Mm-hmm. It's actually called Networking Cigars and Drinks. It's the He-Man Woman Haters Club. We don't allow girls in.
That's right.
And many have tried, but I keep saying no. Anyway, I created this particular event because every time I turned around, there was another women's networking event popping up, and I had enough. So I want to do something for the men. And because I put it on networkingphoenix.com, I'm getting people that I would have never met in my entire life calling me up and saying, "Hey, when's the next event? Can I get to it?" And I put it on the calendar on Networking Phoenix. By the way, people still call, even though it's right there on the calendar. And they come down and the relationships start building because we are bonding around a common theme. In this case, it's cigars. Dudes like to smoke cigars. Some women do, but they're not allowed in the club. So because of networkingphoenix.com, I'm getting all of these new people coming in, the right people, because there's something in common that we can discuss, talk about, and then the relationship naturally turns to business because it is created as a networking event, as business. So it's just a really cool platform to make things happen like that. And unlike that big platform out there that is worldwide, that you go to all these different events, this is local. You know the people behind it, and it's a lot more relaxed when you're meeting people because you have networkingphoenix.com in common with them also. "Oh yeah, I saw your event on Networking Phoenix. Oh yeah, and the other event, and have you been to this event?" So it's really cool like that. And I'm going to stop now. Gelie, hi, how are you?
I know. I love hearing all the feedback because honestly, I don't get a lot of feedback from people unless they take the time to give it to me. So honestly, I'm like, I could sit here all day and listen to it, but I'm great. How are you?
We are so good. And more than your platform, I just want to touch on this. More than your platform, you're actually coaching people on how to network better. So you personally work with people in groups and one-to-one. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. So there's a big demand when people launch a company or they're about to venture out on their own or they're in a sales position and, networking is a part of what they need to be doing. A lot of people just don't know how to network. It doesn't come to them naturally, or they think they do, but they don't really quite get it, or they've maybe had a bad experience before and, they're like, this isn't it. Like if it works for everyone else, if it doesn't work for me, I must be doing something wrong. So obviously Networking Phoenix, I'm attracting people that are looking to network. And so companies will hire me either for like a one-on-one coaching / consulting session, or I run every so often, I run these almost like networking boot camps. I'm probably going to have one coming up at the beginning of the year. That's always a good time to do it. And then I actually have my own private networking / mastermind group that I run, right? Which is a little bit different than the entire Networking Phoenix community because that's open to the public. I mean, that's just like kind of big free for all. We have over 43,000 members. Whereas my private group was a little bit different. This is where, we do a Zoom call once a month, and I coach them on networking, but not just networking, because a lot of the business owners, again, small business owners, particularly the niche that I focus on, they like, once you go and meet the people, that's all well and good, but you have to nurture the relationships, right? So then that's where all the copywriting comes in, the email marketing, the building of their own little community. And it's a foreign concept to a lot of them. Like, I try to explain it, and it's, until you get it, you don't get it. Like, they think sending out an email is all about promotion, and a lot of them are afraid to send out an email. And I'm like, well, then how do people remember you exist? Right. So, but that's all part of networking, because once you go and meet the people and create a connection, which, by the way, is an entire thing. How do you create a real connection? Right. Because it's not just about the business card exchange. Then how do you nurture the relationships to actually turn them into clients? So that's pretty much what my life's about.
It's all about the funnel and getting them in and getting the right people in, and then to bring them out the bottom as a client, from a prospect to a client, you have to follow up.
We should create a show called
we should
Follow Up. That might be a good idea.
It might be cool. Exactly. So, Gelie, now our listeners are all over the place, but mostly here in Phoenix, because we're here in Phoenix. Why would somebody want to join networkingphoenix.com?
Well, honestly, the only reason they would join is if they are local and to Phoenix, and they're looking to attend networking events to meet other professionals in order to grow their network. That would be the main reason for joining. Now, it's free to create a profile. Right. Absolutely free. And then from there, if you are interested in participating in my networking passport, that's an option in the passport. It's $20 a month, and it allows you to attend other organizations' paid events for free. So there's about maybe between 20 and 30 events, depending on the month, that are paid, then you can attend, including my events, right? So I have a monthly mixer, as well as an event called Gelie's Guided Connections. And this is where I experientially put people through on how to have, like I give them a template of how to have a meaningful conversation to be able to connect with anyone in front of them. And so while I teach them that, they're actually sitting in front of somebody, having the conversation, right? So think like speed networking, but with a deep networking twist. So anyway, so all of that is part of the passport. And then, so if someone's local and that's something they're looking for, this is a great resource. Otherwise, like this is not a dating site. So if you're looking for dating, I would not suggest you visit Networking Phoenix.
Please don't go there.
Okay, yeah. I should be deleting my profile now then. Huh?
And what about people outside of Phoenix? What do you have available for them as far as learning how to network or any of that sort of thing?
Yeah, so, people outside of Phoenix, and I actually do have a few clients outside of Phoenix, and interestingly enough, they usually find me. I'm not really out there promoting outside of Phoenix, but they'll find me by various ways, and they're absolutely more than welcome to join, my boot camps or even my private networking group, because a lot of what we teach could translate to anywhere. You don't have to be local in order to to learn some of this stuff. Obviously, my funnel is local. So that's why a majority of my clients are local. But I'm always fascinated by how people from other parts of the country, and sometimes even the world, find me, and they're looking for the specific skill set that I offer. And I mean, that's always the best way, right? Where they engage you, because by the time they call me, they've already sold themselves on what it is that I do. So it's not even a sales process. It's like, yes, let's engage. How would you like to engage? And then we go from there.
And I think what's interesting is people that are watching and listening might not even realize that the power of networkingphoenix.com, because if there's a networking event going on in town somewhere in the entire Phoenix metropolitan area, it's on your website.
Yeah.
Period. There's no reason to go. You just go right there. So if you're coming in from out of town, I mean, Phoenix is a huge town for seminars, conferences, things like that. If you're coming in and you're going to have extra time, check out the calendar on networkingphoenix.com so you can see what's going on and attend some of these events. Make it worth your while to be here. Really, there's no touristy things to do here. You don't want to be
not in Phoenix proper. No, not really. So, Gelie, here I am. I just started a business, or I'm wanting to really build my business because it's been a hobby for a while, or I'm not getting past a certain point, and I decide to throw into network. I decide to throw in networking. I've been against networking. I've been against going to events and going to different meetings and stuff like that. I think that the internet is the only way to get business. Blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. Tell me what I should do at a networking event. How many people should I throw my business card at?
Everyone. I mean, you should just see if you can throw them, get on the ceiling and throw them off your ceiling. I mean, I think people love that, right? Bring a Pez dispenser with you, walk around the room and just people. I mean, you'll get invited to every party. So yeah, no, obviously those are not things you want to do. The thing about networking events is I think most people, especially when they're starting out, just have a horrible, horrible misconception. Like networking events, you're literally attending in order to meet people and make friends, right? I mean, that's like, you're only going to do business with people that you click with, right? That like, and or trust. Like we've heard this over and over, yet when we walk into a networking event, it's all about, well, here's my business card and, and this is what, here's the card and, this is what I do for a living. And, my company's been around for 30 years and, you should call me. I mean, that's why a lot of people don't want to go to networking events because they feel like they're just like, it's a meat market. They're just being told to, and they're like, ugh, they walk away with this horrible feeling. But, so those are like the don'ts. The do's, you want to walk in, and even if you have one meaningful conversation with one person, you did what you needed to do. You're literally there to meet people, have conversations, connect. Connect to me is the key word, because if you meet somebody but you don't really connect, they're not going to be part of your network. The key word is connection, and the way that you create that connection is by being yourself. Like networking events are really not about your business, which sounds so counterintuitive, but initially when we meet people, it's like we need to have that personal connection in order to be genuinely interested in what they do for a living. Right. So one of the things I always teach people is when you're at events, like I and Catherine, you know this. I mean, I hate the question, within the first 60 seconds of meeting somebody, hi, my name is, what do you do? Or 5 seconds, so that's not a horrible question to ask somebody what they do for a living, but not like, hi, what do you do? Because it's like, whoa, like, I don't know who you are and maybe I don't want to tell you. Now that's me responding as a seasoned networker. Somebody that's brand new might also be expecting that, because God forbid they should share something personal about themselves to actually get to know who's in front of them. So there's a lot of dynamics going on. And I get that. And then that, one time you and I had this banter on Facebook, you're like, but Gelie, that's a natural icebreaker. I'm like, I get it. But if you want to be memorable, that's a horrible question to ask in the first 50, 5 seconds. Like if you want to be memorable, I always say ask an open-ended question to get a genuine conversation going, because what do people love talking about? Themselves. So just ask them personal, like, have you been to any of Gelie's events before? How do you know about this event? Oh, do you typically network? Do you network around town? Just get the conversation flowing before saying, how do you make money? Like, how do you put food on your table? Right? Which is really what do you do translates to. And you two have heard me say this before, but only in America is it acceptable to ask somebody how they make their money, like within the first few instances of meeting them. And for a lot of people, it's so uncomfortable, right? So you're literally invoking an awkward feeling in somebody, and that's not the right path to a genuine connection. So when I teach, sorry, I know you're about to ask a question, but just very quickly, I'm going to finish it. I teach about the psychology of connecting, as opposed to go to a networking event, put your name tag on the right side, because if you put it on the left side, there's, name tag police, and there's not, by the way, So,
oh no, it's Catherine. She's the name tag police.
Please, come on.
Yeah, but it's about having a real connection with the human being in front of you. And that is the only way that you will grow a solid network. Because in 10 years from now, if you're doing something else, you pivot to completely different industry, a job, whatever, those people are still in your network. This is not just about what you're doing for the moment. So, all right, now
No, I was going to say, it occurred to me as you were saying that, because we did have this discussion on Facebook, but it did occur to me when you were saying that, if I ask somebody, if the first question out of my mouth is, so what is it that you do? I have just given them permission to try and sell to me, especially if they're a newbie. Oh my God, you want to know what I do? Oh,
here's my business card.
Yeah. Here's what I'm selling you. It's an owl, and it's the best owl ever. And you got to buy this owl from me. So yeah, just as you were saying that, I'm like, oh, wait. Yeah.
And what's interesting also is something that we teach, which is very similar to what you're saying, is find the common ground.
Yeah.
Find what you have in common with the other person. In our case, when we talk about the ideal client. Find what you have in common with them. So you are building that connection. You are building that relationship. And in the end, that's where the money's at. Whether they refer to you, whether they become your client, whether you become their client, whether you refer to them, the money is at the commonality.
Yes. 100%.
Absolutely. So where do you start if you don't know where to start in networking? Or where should someone restart? Because probably a lot of people out there are listening to this and they're like, oh shit, I've been doing it wrong. So where should you start or restart in networking?
Well, I think, if they're local, they're more than welcome to, again, visit networkingphoenix.com. I don't have my next Gelie's Guided Connections event listed, because I don't even have it scheduled because I'm having a mixer in January. But I would say if they want to engage with me in some way, that would be a great event to look for, because like I said, I experientially put people through the template of what a conversation should look like at a networking event. But if they're brave enough to just go out and jump in on their own, I mean, again, they're welcome to visit the calendar. There's events happening every single day. Go and experiment, right? My event's coming up the last Tuesday of the month in January. I don't have a calendar in front of me. I don't remember what date it is, but it's the last Tuesday. I don't have it announced yet either officially.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yes, actually, publicly.
And that's for 2020. For those of you who are watching this in 2065, that was back in 2020. But Gelie is still doing events. So.
And she still looks the same.
And she still looks the same.
Younger, actually, younger.
Younger, yeah, probably.
So, but yeah, so. People are welcome to go to that one. Or like I said, there's so many other networking events that we promote that are put on by other organizations. So, people are welcome to attend those and just start practicing. And like I said, one of the first, a question I would challenge people to ask instead of what do you do, maybe again, ask them what their story is. So what's your story? How did you hear about this event? Maybe what's your story, and follow up with another question to give them some sort of a direction. Try not to talk about what you do for a living until the very end. And again, that's when I always say there should be 4 questions you ask. Hold on, I have my little cheat sheet right here.
It's in her
about sharing this, but this is good, you guys. This is actually what I do. This is what I teach them at the Guided Connection class. So the first thing that you want to establish is commonality and likability. So just find out what you might have in common, right? And Barry, how you were saying, it's just what do you have? Do you have kids in common? Maybe you were raised in this, you're both from Ohio. I don't know, everyone in Arizona is a transplant, for most part. Find out what you have in common. Once you have a commonality, boom, instant connection. Now you like each other that much more. The next question typically is, what's your passion? Their why. What's your why? Why do you do what, why are you doing what, why are you here tonight? What are you doing? What is your purpose in life? And that's a pretty deep question. You will find out, me personally, my small talk is deep talk. If you give me a few minutes of your time, I will get into your soul and I'll tell you why you're doing what you're doing if you're not sure. But that's usually a good conversational piece, because most people don't expect to have that conversation. And then when they do, they're like, wow, this is really cool, and then you just get into it. But of course, if you're going to ask deep questions, expect to bring the depth as well. Right. So that's something.
Right. You got to give to receive.
Absolutely. So, you could maybe start out by saying, well, I'm here because I'm exploring a new chapter in my life. I just decided to quit my job and I'm pursuing this new passion of mine. I just jumped off a cliff. I mean, if you share something like that, that's your why, and you're being vulnerable. Vulnerability is one of the main keys of connection, which was actually the third point. But your passion, vulnerability, they all go hand in hand, right? It's almost difficult to break up the conversation. Like first do this, then do this, but that's almost how it should flow. Commonality, passion, vulnerability. And only at the very end, it's almost like at that point, you're looking at the person in front of you and you're like, okay, now I'm like literally burning to know what it is that you do for a living. But now when you're asking, you really want to know. Now this isn't just an icebreaker because you don't know what else to say. Now when you ask, you're like, you have actually already spent a good amount of time chatting with the person in front of you. So that's where I would start, or re-engage for those people that, again, need to get out and start meeting people face to face in order to reel them in, right? And that's the number one step. And then there's the whole funnel and follow-up process.
And I think your questions could also work the other way as well. You know, maybe this isn't somebody that I want to have a relationship with. So you could end the conversation and move on to somebody else. So it's a selection process.
Absolutely.
Because God knows we don't want to have a relationship with everybody we meet. There are some nut jobs out there.
There are. Yeah, probably. Mostly. That's a good question, Gelie. How do you end a conversation? When you're in a networking group, you've just told us how to have the conversation, how to start the conversation. How do you end the conversation and move on?
Yeah, so typically this is when it would be a good time to exchange business cards if you do decide to continue, the relationship with this person, because otherwise there's really no rule that says you need to exchange business cards at a networking event, which we can touch on in a second. But you can say, I'd love to exchange business cards and follow up with you, and maybe we can continue the conversation, because I know there's other people here you probably want to meet tonight. I want to go say hello to a few people, but it was just such a pleasure meeting and connecting with you. I really enjoyed getting to know you. Put your own words to it, but something along those lines.
So that's a nice, smooth transition. I love that. Exchange the cards, give them the option to leave, the okay to leave, not the option, because you don't want them to stay. Give them the okay to leave, and then when you say you're going to follow up.
Unless you don't want to continue their relationship.
But then don't say you're going to follow up.
Yeah, it depends on the person standing in front of you. Sometimes people can be found in awkward. So look, for the sake of we're going to do this right in the business sense. Yes. If you say you're going to follow up, then follow up. Otherwise you're the flake and no one's going to that reflects poorly on you. I will say that there are times when I meet people and I'm like, this is not somebody that I, need to continue the conversation with, but I need to get out of the conversation. So I'll almost use the same template to get out of the conversation. And then I'll say, we can follow up with each other at a later date. Maybe say we can. So now it's just not on me, and then again, that date may not come. I mean, it just but again, this is where you have to use your own discretion and judgment.
Right. And you're at a networking event, so you're time limited also.
Yes.
You don't want to spend the whole time talking to one person.
No.
You want to
unless that's the person that you were you are 100% correct. You want to go and have a few conversations. However, there are some times where you meet somebody or you see somebody you've been trying to get to, and the conversation just needs to happen.
Sure.
Again, I'm being realistic. There's a number of scenarios. There's not just one way to do it. If you're in the middle of a good conversation, and it's mutual, there's not necessarily a reason to break it up. But this a lot of times happens in other phases of networking. Phase one, you're there to meet a number of people, right? But then once you've done that, and your networking evolves, now when I go to networking events, it's very rare that I actually meet new people. I'm usually seeing people that I know and I want to catch up with all of them. And there are times where I'm walking up somebody, I'm I know this is going to be a long conversation because it just needs to be. So depending on, again, because your listeners, if they're all over the place, it honestly depends what phase of their own networking they're in. So there is some EQ here, emotional intelligence, EI, that is not so scientific. But for the most part, to keep it simple, yes, you don't typically want to monopolize somebody's entire time, because again, then you're kind of a nuisance to them, and then they're not going to want to talk to you. Like when people do that to me, I'm like, I already gave you 30 minutes of my time. You're not getting any more. Bye. You know, I mean,
read body language.
Yes.
You got to read the body language.
Yeah.
Learn to read body language if you're going to be networking.
If their feet are pointing towards the door, they want to get out of the conversation.
Yes. It's the body language.
What advice would you give to somebody, because you have over the last 12 plus years, you have put on amazing network events with hundreds and hundreds of people at a particular event. We're not talking over 12 years, a total of hundreds and hundreds. No, we're talking one event, hundreds and hundreds of people. What advice would you give to someone who wants to create something so that they can bring people into their world?
Yeah, I say do it. Like hosting events is one of the best way to grow your network. You've got to like hosting events, because hosting events is not fun. Like there's a lot of logistics involved, but you don't have to start out like big bang, meaning the number one I would say is pick a really good spot. People love good locations, like location, just like in real estate, people love a good location. So for instance, like my first event, my event in January is going to be at a really cool new spot. It's this restaurant in the Scottsdale airport that literally overlooks like the tarmac and like the runway. So the airplanes are coming in and out. Awesome spot. Like I know people are going to want to like, oh, wow, this is cool. I want to go check it out. People will want to check out. And so you're giving them an extra reason to attend the event. So that'll be the first thing. Second thing, start out, you don't have to start out big. Even if like 5-10 people show up, that's great. 20, 30, whatever. Like it's not a numbers game. It's a quality game. Like I've had, Catherine, like you said, I've had events where we had over 2,000 people. And that's tough. That is tough. Like, it's like, I don't even know what to say about that, and then I've had events where maybe only 40, 50 people show up, and it's like, well, I'm not pulling in the numbers, but I'm having quality conversations. So it's a very different type of feel and a different energy, right? With the type of event that you're having. And for instance, my guided meditation, probably is more of a the guided connections event. It's a very small, intimate event, but it's meant to be. Again, I'm teaching them how to deeply connect. They're walking out of there with friendships made, and me too, because I'm connecting with these people as well. So yeah, it really depends on what kind of an experience you want to create and what your goal is for hosting the events.
So just do the event, but make sure you know what the end result is going to be.
Well, what you want the end result to be, yeah, for yourself. Because sometimes when you host the event, you don't know what the end result is going to be, and hopefully it's better than you expected. But the question is, why are you doing this? And the reason I say this is because a lot of people, they're like, oh, networking events are so easy. I'm going to have networking events and I'm going to make money at them. Sorry, can you tell how I feel about people? So it's like that's like people will see through you. You're going to attract on people that only care about money. It's going to be like a ick on top of ick on top of ick. So if that's your purpose, ick. Like I'm not interested, and other quality people won't be. If your intention is to create a quality experience, you're not going to make money at networking events. Like I'm going to tell you that right now. Like that's not like networking events are your marketing for whatever else you're doing. For me, I'm running the community. I've got the passport. Like there's different things, but the networking events they're not really money makers. No. So that's again to dispel for people, because people go into it and they're like, oh, network. We'll have events. We'll charge $20 at the door. Do you know who wants to pay $20 at the door when it comes to networking events? Nobody.
No.
Yeah, it's like these people are networking because they that's their marketing. They don't have a marketing budget. So
and, with me, like with my group that I created it for several reasons. Number one, Catherine and I do everything together, everything. So this is my one night a month. I get to do something myself, but I'm keeping it business focused. and I'm building relationships around that commonality, which in this case is cigars. So, and it's not a big event. I never wanted it to be a big event. We'll have anywhere from 5 to 20 people show up. That's all that I want it to be. And it's not selling. None of us sell there. Here's the rules. No selling, no politics, no religion. Have fun.
Yeah.
And everybody that comes to it is pretty much the same thing. You know what? It's given me my one night a month to get out and still do something that is both social and business. So, there is definitely the purpose for it. And if you want to host a 1,000-person event, God bless you. But like you said, Gelie, that's a lot of work. All I have to do is call up the restaurant I'm going to be at and say, yeah, I just have 10 people coming, book the table. That's it. But to host 1,000 people, that is find the location, make sure it's set up correctly, have the food and beverage done right, make sure everything is there enough parking there? Because I remember your first event. Your first
events.
Yeah. It's you got to make sure people can get to the event and make sure that you get some sort of RSVP so you have some idea of who's showing up. Because otherwise you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
You could be set up for 1,000 people and 20 show up.
It happens. No, events. I think events to meet other people and and have, like you're doing, Barry, and just and have something to gather up people is great. Events as a business, I've volunteered for Gelie on numerous occasions. I've worked for Gelie in the past. It is not all fun and games. It is not even some fun and games. It's serious. It's a serious, as you said, Gelie, it's part of your marketing. It's a serious thing. We do, 1-day events and 3-day events to do teaching and to, and then to eventually sell a product or service. And the event itself, not a moneymaker, not even a break even. It's a way of doing something. It's a way of, promoting ourselves. So don't think for a second, as Gelie said, it's a moneymaker, but do certainly create an atmosphere where you can bring people together under a commonality and get into those deep relationships. I think that's a great, a great way of getting out there and putting yourself as the expert. What about if it's not my event? How should I act? It's not my event. I show up at an event. How should I act?
Oh, I love other people's events where I can just show up. It's like a vacation. So there's a few networking strategies. One of the things I teach people, I teach my volunteers is, if you're coming to one of my events and you want to volunteer, that is a networking strategy. That is a solid networking strategy because you're upfront. And even if you're not conversing about your business, they physically see you. You're one of the first people that they see when they walk in.
Yep.
So there is an instant bond that happens. I've had people tell me years after they volunteered in my events, they're like, that was one of the best things I did because now when I show up to other events, people recognize me and they just walk up to me and they're like, oh, I saw you at Gelie's event, or you gave me my name tag. But it's like a natural icebreaker. So again, networking is not like a one-time thing where you show up to one event and it's like, so volunteering at other people's events, if that's an option, is actually a solid networking strategy. If volunteering at other people's events, like not all events offer that. So, something that you can do is when you're attending, if you don't know who's hosting the event, like you always should introduce yourself to the hosts. Maybe find out why they're hosting. If it's a chain, let's say it's something like a chamber. Okay, well, that's obvious. Chambers host networking events. If it's a private organization, again, I always want to know, why are you doing this? Are you trying to make money off? Why are you doing this? Do you have a business behind? I'm a curious mind, because that'll tell me everything I need to know about the event. In essence, where am I going with this? I'm sorry, I'm going a little over the place. I'm following my own mind because my mind's entrepreneurial and curious.
Yeah.
But as far as for the networking purposes, but still, it's like you'll see very quickly if the people in your room are your people or not. Okay. And so, because not every event is for everybody. If these aren't your people, don't go back to the event. When you find your event, it's going to be so natural. Like you're going to walk in, you're going to feel like you're at someone's house, like party, like someone's dinner party. So, like when I go to an event where I know a lot of people and they're all my friends and they really are my friends on some level. I tell people, I'm like, this is like a house party for Gelie. Like this is like a birthday party for me. Like I'm walking around, I have great chemistry with everybody, like even the new people that I'm meeting, because it's a certain type of a person gets attracted to a certain type of event because of the leader that's putting it on.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers the question you asked me.
No, that's a great answer. Know why the person is putting on the event. And a lot of times I've never even thought of that. Like understand why the person is putting on the event so that you understand the person and the people that will be there.
Yeah.
Don't waste time. Your time is worth a lot of money. Don't waste it.
Yes. And sometimes what we do as a strategy is when we go to an event, act like we're the host.
Yeah.
Welcome people, bring them in. And it gives you, even though you're not, they don't know that, but they will know that eventually. You're not tricking them. But if you welcome them as if you are the host, you immediately can start a conversation with them as well, because they're right there. Oh, thank you for welcoming me. It's kind of like chambers. They all have the ambassadors, they're to greet people, to get them in. So if you do the same thing, just without an official title,
yes,
it works for you.
Absolutely. And I've done that before. And I think that's a phenomenal networking strategy too. I think for new people starting out, that might be a little awkward. I think when you're a seasoned networker like you two are and I am, we could just jump in and out of those roles very quickly. I will say in the times when I've done that, it gets confusing for people. They're like, wait, is this your event? So so it really depends. But yes, that could be, if someone out there is listening and they have great charisma and they're like, I can jump into any event, start greeting people. Great, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greet them at the door, welcome them in. Hi, thanks. It starts a great conversation starter. So what brings you here tonight? Welcome. What brings you here tonight?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Now let's talk a little bit about the Networking Phoenix platform. networkingphoenix.com. Is it just a calendar? Is it just events?
That's what most people associated with. And most people don't even understand that it's it's a software, it's backed by unique software that I own. Most people actually think that I'm just a networking group, which is wonderful. I don't care what they think as long as they give me their money. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I knew we liked Gelie for a reason.
That's right.
I'll smile and nod. I'm like, oh yes, we're okay, or I'll correct them. I'm like, we're not a networking group, we're a networking community. And I'm sure there's people listening right now and they're like, wait, what? Like, I don't even understand what she just said. That's okay. Here's the deal. I came up with this idea over 12 years ago. And at the time I was married to a software engineer who took my idea and created a very unique software platform that doesn't exist anywhere else. And essentially what it is, I'm going to say the words, listen to them carefully, what I'm about to say, not just you guys, but even the audience. It is an event-centric community building platform. It's a mouthful. So let me explain that. So anytime there are events around, the same hobby or the same vertical, same industry, and you can build a community around it, this software is like a phenomenal resource, right? So let me explain this in the Networking Phoenix terms. So there are over 500 networking events happening in the Phoenix area.
Yep.
We list them on our calendar. So anybody that wants to know where networking events are happening, they go to networkingphoenix.com. They create a free profile, which now they're a part of our community, right? It doesn't matter that they belong to the Awatuki Chamber or the Scottsdale Chamber or ASBA or I don't care what they belong to. If they're looking to network, they're part of the networking community, right? So this is what distinguishes us from a networking group. I'm not like this, all mine. My goal, in fact, is to push all these people out to get to know the other groups, okay? Which is a very unique concept because I I'm an extremely collaborative human being, and not everyone that runs networking groups is, as I'm sure you know from experience. So, so we list the events on the calendar, they create their profile, and then again, there's different features, there's different options. They can message each other, they can meet each other, they can create leads with our lead filter through the networking passport. There's actually so many bells and whistles, I don't even care to go into it, because at the core, we built the community around the networking events. Now, the way that I'm rebuilding the software, which is currently in the works, is that I could take this idea and put it into many other verticals, right? I can put, let's just, great example, spiritual events. There's many spiritual events in Phoenix, if not more, as there are networking events. Everyone is getting into spirituality these days, you know, because we're all awakening, which again is like a whole other conversation. There's a whole vertical, and so when I personally look for spiritual events, I run into this really annoying issue where I have to go to Meetup to find them. I have to go to Facebook to find them. I have to have Facebook suggest events to me and wait for that to happen in order to see the event that's already passed and hope I can catch the next one. It is the same exact problem I had 12 years ago when I was looking for networking events. The problem hasn't been solved in different industries, even with Meetup and Facebook being around. So, so I am literally taking the software and putting it into different verticals that have lots of events and need a large community built around it. So Networking Phoenix, Spiritual Phoenix. I mean, I just came up with it. It's not going to be called that, right? But the Spiritual Phoenix. Do you know how many public yoga events there are in any city on any given day?
I know my cousin in LA goes to a couple of different, public yoga classes and stuff.
But not just classes at studios, but they just have them everywhere. There's like, that's like a trend. That's like a thing now, let's all get together in a park and do yoga. So how do you find it? If you may not be into yoga, but people live and breathe yoga. And this is, and here's the thing. Here's the overall, arch over all of this. Loneliness is a huge epidemic in our society. Whether you meet people through networking, whether you meet people through spiritual events, whether you meet people through yoga, we all need a way to connect. So if you're asking me about my entrepreneurial journey, which I know is like a little bit off topic here, but
no, because everybody out here listening is an entrepreneur, and something that you say can click in their head in relation to their business. So I want to hear it all. We want to hear it all.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy to share, but overall arching, like, who am I and what did I create? In essence, I created a way for people to connect. Right. And my personal hobby at the time was networking. So I went the networking route. Well, now my hobby is like spiritual events. Great. I'm going to create the same thing. And so, I can spin up a whole number of communities in Phoenix before I even take this out of the state. Do I get demand for the software from out of state? Absolutely. I get demand for it out of the state and out of the country. So now it becomes a platform that other people can license to create all these different communities around different verticals wherever they are. The passport program works for all of them because all these people want the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, we join for free, but then they pay the monthly fee, and then it's a huge lead generator. Because again, think about it again. Like, for instance, when I run my networking boot camps, where do I promote to? I promote to my email list through Networking Phoenix. So if somebody's running this in the spiritual space and they have a spiritual community, let's say it's not me, because I can't be running all these communities, right? But someone else is running in Phoenix and, they do spiritual work. Where do you think they're going to go to pull their clients?
From the spiritual list.
From the spiritual. Same thing for the yoga. Same thing for, golf. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's just so many verticals where like events are a thing, because in our, there's loneliness is an epidemic and people are trying to connect, and everyone has a different way of connecting. And Meetup is wonderful, but Meetup doesn't even come close to what this particular platform does and what it solves.
Right, because it's also people's personal or professional bio. So you get really truly get to know the person, and and who I've heard you say it a million times, look on the list of who is attending and then get their bio and before the event, say that you're going to show up 30 minutes before and meet a couple of people before. So it's more than just here's the meeting. It's the ability to create connection. It's the ability to create relationships, which then in turn, builds your business. But here's something that I want our listeners to really hear. 12 plus years ago, when you came up with this idea, it was about connection. It was about there's a void in the industry, and the void in your particular mind, in your industry, was how to connect, how to find ways to connect. You've always been about connection and connecting people. So I challenge everyone who's listening to our show, what is the void that your product or service is filling? And what is that overarching, as you said, theme? Is it connection? Is it service? Is it health? What is the overarching theme that you want to get to people? And now watch Gelie as she is revamping her software and spreading her market, the ability to create licenses. This is how you get big. This is how you get huge. This is how Gelie's going to end up on Shark Tank.
You mean one of the investors on Shark Tank, not pitching it, right?
Yeah, she jumped the shark and went right to being an investor. You see what I did there?
Yeah,
jumped the shark.
Oh, jump the shark. Yeah, that's an old horrible reference.
I know.
To why shows fail.
And to your point, Kat, what you said is what void do you fill in your industry? Better yet, if you are that entrepreneurial, find out what void there is in your industry and fill it, which is exactly what you did, Gelie. What is the void in the industry? What's missing? Now let me fill it, and that is my niche. And when you find that, it's limitless what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always tell people your uniqueness is your power, because only you can solve a particular niche. People will resonate with you because of who you are. There could be 10 realtors in the room. Why is somebody going to work with you over somebody else? It's because of who you are and what you have to offer as a person. I mean, I have a conversation with people on the daily. there was one girl I met with about a year ago, and she was transitioning from corporate American to being a realtor. And she was like, I don't want to talk about anything personal because, people need to take me seriously. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Do your clients not have personalities? She's like, well, of course they do. I'm like, well, what do you like? She's like, well, it was funny. I remember she said to me, she's like, well, I'm basic. She says, I like to eat, I like to discover cool food places in Arizona. And, I really enjoy doing makeup. Her makeup looks amazing. She does all the, makeup for fun with her friends. And
right.
I mean, she had some interesting hobbies, and I'm like, so why wouldn't you talk about that? She's like, well, that makes me look unprofessional. And I'm like, but I'm telling you the mindset of people. And I'm like, no, actually, if you talk about all those things, you are very interesting to people. And then they'll want to buy a house with you because they enjoy spending time with you and they feel like you're connected. So you're into it. I mean, her brand is she did a phenomenal job. She talks about all the cool food places and all the makeup and the homes. And it's just it's beautiful. I don't want to just watch a realtor talking about, home sales. Okay. Yeah. But she's so much fun to watch. So if somebody asks me, hey, do you know a realtor? And I feel like they could be a good match because maybe, again, I know they might have similarities in common. I would send them to her. Versus, someone else, I've got somebody else over here and someone asks, do you know a realtor? And I'm like, oh no, you would connect with this person because of who they are as a person. Yes. I would send them to that person.
And that's huge because we teach that all the time. You have to be yourself and your brand has to be you. Mm-hmm. You are your brand. Your brand is not your logo. Your logo is an extension of you and your brand. So, and that's so important. The realtor example is, we use that example all the time. Mm-hmm. All the time, because we all know 2 dozen different realtors, But when you want to refer somebody, you in your head have to match up the personalities. You know, even if you send them to 2 or 3 and then let them decide who they want to work with, at least you're giving them a starting point.
Absolutely.
And I think the other thing is, and it's super important, when you're in corporate America, you are taught not to have a personality, not to talk about personal stuff, because, you know, that's an HR thing, that's a this, that's a that. It's different. When you own your business, it's your own business. When you're in sales, it's different. You have to have a personality. So, Gelie, what is one solid piece of advice you can give our listeners who are networking, and then tell us what they should, you know, what they should do and on your website and that whole Networking Phoenix community?
Well, I mean, you know, number one, again, if they don't have a profile on the website, I would recommend they go and create one, you know, and then they'll get email notifications of our upcoming events.
Yep.
That would be step number one. And I think, you know, the best advice I can give about networking, we've kind of beat this one, you know, pretty good on the show, but it's about being yourself and having authentic conversations. But the biggest piece that people miss is the follow-up, because you can go and have the best conversations and have the best connection, but if you don't follow up with people, nothing will happen. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Create the connection into a relationship, nurture the relationship, and that's what turns into clients. Absolutely.
I agree 1,000%. So there it is on the screen. It's networkingphoenix.com. For those who are listening to audio only, networkingphoenix.com. Go fill out a profile. And even if you're not in the Phoenix area, go fill out a profile anyway, because you never know who you can connect with on the website or what you can find out. It's not just about events. It's about creating community. Mm-hmm. So, Gelie, thank you so much for being on the show. Always a wealth of information. You're doing amazing work connecting people, and we just love to have you.
No, thank you for having me, and I love being around you too. Love
Aww. It's really you she loves being around, Kat. Me, not so much.
Yeah.
No, you two are, I mean, I love you both individually, but together it's like the you know, the special energy you two have when you're up together. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
and with that, everybody,
networkingphoenix.com. And with that, we'll see you on the next show.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.